look at the groundbreaking scientific explorations, like, let's say, quantum computing, medical trials, or even aerospace research, the timeline to see the profits can be decades.
I think that distinction between private and state funding is brilliant, Eddie, and that adds incredible depth to an essay. Welcome back to the IELTS with BF, everyone. My name is Nick.
And I'm Eddie. We're glad you're here today because we are unpacking an absolute classic writing task number 2 and speaking part 3, prompts. This isn't one of those questions that requires Mr. Nick a deep, balanced perspective to score well.
Yeah, and here is the question that we are exploring today. Should governments spend public funds on performance arts like theater and music? Or should that money be spent exclusively on science and technology? Mr. Eddie, this question is very fascinating because it makes us think about how a society chooses its long-term priorities. And when you look at the science and technology side, where does the main argument begin?
Well, Nick, I think a great way for students to approach this in an essay is to look at it from a macroeconomic perspective. Public funds are, ultimately a limited resource, and so a government has to treat them as a strategic investment. When a nation channels capital into scientific research and developing technological infrastructure, it directly creates a foundation for measurable economic growth.
That makes a lot of sense. And you're talking about things that affect everyone's standard of living, right?
Exactly. We're talking about generating medical breakthroughs, finding sustainable energy solutions to combat global issues, and creating high-paying jobs in the tech sector, whereas funding an aesthetic productions like, an opera house or a play is culturally enriching, but it doesn't necessarily directly solve any structural economic problems.
Yeah, that's a very solid foundation, Eddie. It shows a clear and logical understanding of economic utility. However, I have to say that if a student just stops there, their essay might look a little bit reductive, and in order to get a higher score, they need to balance that utility with the intrinsic value of a society. The performing arts aren't just a luxury or entertainment. They are the literal bedrock of our cultural heritage.
I agree. Culture, from what you said, is what gives a nation its identity, isn't it?
Yeah.
But, Mr. Nick, how did you translate that into a strong academic argument?
Well, for starters, you can look at both the social and economic dimensions. Socially, an exclusive focus on science and efficiency could create a hyper-technological society that lacks a sense of community and human interaction. Economically speaking, the creative arts sector is actually a highly lucrative market in its own right. It drives international tourism, stimulates local businesses, and it creates jobs.
Well said, Mr. Nick. It shows the examiner that the arts aren't just a financial drain, right? But it also raises an interesting counter-argument, like what you said, regarding where that money comes from. For instance, major commercial shows can often attract private sponsorships because they have a clear path to profits.
Yeah, true. Commercial entertainment can often sustain itself.
Right, but when we look at the groundbreaking scientific explorations, like, let's say, quantum computing, medical trials, or even aerospace research, the timeline to see the profits can be decades, right?
Yeah.
Because private corporations are naturally risk averse, they simply won't fund deep. So without the governments absorbing all of those initial, might say, financial risks, major scientific innovations would completely, from my perspective, stall.
Yeah, and I think that distinction between private and state funding is brilliant, and that adds incredible depth to an essay. But let's also look at why the state needs to fund the arts to ensure social inclusivity.
Because they have to cover all of those costs without help?
Yeah, exactly. And if that happens, theater, classical music, and cultural exhibitions may become exclusive privileges reserved only for the wealthy. And public subsidies ensure that culture remains accessible to lower income demographics. And furthermore, I think you appreciate this connection, Eddie. Scientific innovation requires abstract, creative, and outside-the-box thinking. Historically, many great scientists have credited their breakthroughs to the engagement with music or visual arts.
I love that connection, Mr. Nick. Blending the two fields together really shows a level of critical thinking.
Yeah.
Furthermore, it's like it proves that arts and sciences are pretty much like separate. They are, in fact, mutually supportive pillars of one another for a developed nations. So, looking at your discussions, an outright ban on arts funding is too extreme, right?
Yeah.
Just as ignoring scientific progress would be disastrous.
Yeah, absolutely. So for our listeners planning their essay structure, the ideal thesis statement shouldn't be an either-or choice. Instead, you should propose a multifaceted approach. The strongest essays will strike a harmonious balance between pushing the boundaries of technological progress and also preserving the cultural soul of the community.
Yeah, beautifully conclude, Mr. Nick. This kind of nuanced discussions and very much balanced is exactly how students can climb up to the highest band descriptors. So everyone, now together with us, let's try to pivot into our vocabulary checklist. Okay, shall we?
Yeah.
So I'm sure, Mr. Nick, our audience today can see how to replicate this precise language that we use on the exam day.
All right, let's take a look at the informal or basic way that most candidates write and contrast it with the exam-ready way that we used.
All right, let's kick it start, everyone.
All right, instead of looking at the money side, we said from a macroeconomic perspective. And you can use that adverbial phrase to smoothly introduce a paragraph focused on national finance or state investments.
The second phrase that we both use to talk about technological equipment, instead of saying labs, we didn't say labs, we didn't say computers, we didn't even say tech gear. For a 7.5 plus level essay, we have to use something much more advanced, for example, like to group together the system, the network, the facilities under a formal academic noun, which is infrastructure. So instead of using those kind of long grocery lists, we said technological infrastructure.
Yeah, and for countering an argument, instead of saying something basic like oversimplifying things, we said a reductive viewpoint, and this is a highly sophisticated phrase to use when you transition into a concession paragraph or addressing a counter argument.
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Nick. So following up on that, we talked about history and identity as well, right? So you create some kind of a counter-argumentative paragraph to fight back what I said.
Yeah.
Right? So instead of him saying history, traditions, and identities, and I said we try to morph them into a single noun phrase, and the single noun phrase that I'm mentioning at the moment is cultural heritage. So this is a Birmingham's academic collocation, everyone, that fits perfectly whenever a prompt mentions local customs, art, language, and architecture. Yes.
Yeah. And when talking about business, instead of saying a business that makes a lot of money, I specifically said a lucrative market.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you
Yeah.
like that term?
Absolutely, I really love that term. It's like you really amazed me by saying that, and everyone, absolutely. So one day I will use it in my next essay. All right, writing essay. Okay, for the sixth in order, we use completely instead of saying completely new science discoveries to describe human like breakthrough projects or research, I use groundbreaking scientific explorations. So with the word groundbreaking is to emphasize research and discoveries that fundamentally alter or improve human life.
Yeah. And rather than saying, making sure poor people are included, we used the term social inclusivity. And this term demonstrates to the examiner that you can write about complex social policies using appropriate academic terminology.
Okay, to target social fairness, everyone. All right. And to conclude, Mr. Nick here, instead of him saying a plan with lots of different solutions, he used more than a highly academic terms, a multifaceted approach, right?
Yeah. Which is
it's pretty much an action-packed word that would say. That is one of the most complex terms that I've ever heard, Mr. Nick.
Yeah.
So pretty much everyone use this phrase in your conclusions. This is to recommend to the reader or the examiners a sophisticated combined strategy, okay, of all. Right, everyone. So that really brings us to the end of today's analysis, and we hope that our collaborative breakdown really gives you guys a clear blueprint for your next essay. Okay.
And do not forget to practice writing a balanced outline using these exact collocations, and subscribe to our channel, and make sure to hit that bell notification for more balanced, high-scoring arguments from us. Best of luck to
Everyone,
you.
peace.
Okay.